taking three.
Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no!
Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course. And today I've got two video clips where I just sort of messed around, had a bit of fun. Recently, I have bought quite a few modules for my Kagero and the... for the Kagero, yeah, some upgrades for the Kagero as well as modules for. So I only need one more module for the Kagero, and that is the $2 million one. And I'm obviously going to get the detection decrease there, so that's not too bad. So just looking to make some money here, so I figured why the hell not take out the old turpits. So you can see we are in hotspot, and I'm over to the south of A. And A is really where I'm going to want to focus here, because it's where the majority of these ships are, right? Most of the allies, those folks over at C, they do actually do a bunch of good things over there, but it's usually, a toss-up for the folks over at C. But anyway, obvious choice for us is A, but my intention is not to go like A and then keep to the west side of A. No, I'm going to be going A and then to the south of A, well, more to the middle of the map, I guess we'll say, and to the south of the B point, right? That's going to be the overall strategy here, and I'm even going to try some crazy things over here at A in terms of just charging in. Yes. And it turns out pretty good. I was pretty impressed with it. Anyway, so lining up on some enemies here, and you can see obviously armor piercing is loaded, and I'm just taking shots off at anyone in range. Now on my turpits, I have the fighter plane because it already has 21 kilometer range, and that's good enough for me. I don't necessarily need that extra bit of range with the scout plane, so I'm happy to have a fighter plane on board, and that's how I just roll out the turpits here. And in terms of modules for the turpits as well, I don't have all of them because I'm pretty cheap in spending that money on actual ships as opposed to premium ships. And in terms of the modules I do have, though, it's all secondary battery upgrades is what I have on her. I figure that's the best option for her, because as you know, the Turpis is best really mid to close range. The long range duels with your Turpits can go either way. I mean, you're either going to accomplish a whole lot of nothing, or you're going to maybe get some pretty nice citadel hits on some enemies out there, which could turn into your favor there shortly. So more enemies off into the distance. You can see some of them are, or most of them, the two I'm looking at right now, the two cruisers, are pretty soft target. Little wonky there, but what had happened, I think I minimized the game or something, and so the recording had paused while I was minimized. Well, whatever. Anyway, nothing big happened. I took some shots off of the cruisers, and they missed. Yeah, as you can see. Anyway, now I'm circling down below the south point of A, right? So this is where I'm starting to decide and make that move that I was speaking of earlier, to really just go into A with the eventual idea of pushing to B. Because you'll notice my team is currently capping C. We're fighting it out over A, and the enemy is capping B unopposed. So I really want to get over to B and not get too concerned with A at this time. Because see, like these battleships over here, I don't want to end up like those guys. They're going to get horribly out of position, because the battle is eventually going to switch towards the center of the map. And if you're on the the outskirts of it, even if you're in a fast battleship like a Tirpitz with good range on her, you still might find yourself out of position. So you got to keep that in mind. You just don't want to do what these guys are doing and just basically broadsides cruising up the map. Just waiting for the guns to reload, get another shot before they actually maneuver or do anything at all. So here I go into the actual A cap point. I do have some support around me as well. Maybe not direct support, but definitely a whole lot of support behind me. In terms of most of my allied team, they're down there, sort of fighting it out with those enemy battleships on the west side as well, but really as well, putting shots into the enemy ships around B. And you'll notice as well, there was an enemy ship that was putting some pressure on the C cap point that we were capping. Managed to reset it, but luckily my allies took that enemy out, and now it's just a matter of taking out a few more enemy ships before they can secure that cap point. So that's the basic plan here and what we've got going on. You can see the cruisers are back. Yes, it's a Nuremberg and an Omaha, I believe. So I'm going to be, trying to get shots into these guys as best as I possibly can, because they're pretty light targets, and I can do some really nice damage to them if I can actually manage to hit them. Not the best at battleships, as you may recall, so every now and then I do struggle with actually aiming the shells here, but you know, I get by. So these cruisers are presenting, you know, excellent targets for me right now. They're exposing their whole broadsides to me, so I'm able to get some shots into her, pretty nice shots, but unfortunately my aiming is pretty crap, so can't really get the shots off that I want. One last broadside into the enemy before he goes around the island, and yes, luckily managed to do it that time. A few citadels and the Omaha is gone, and get a devastating strike for it as well, so that's not too bad at all. Enemy Amagi off in the distance there, so looking at the hull you can tell as well that it's not, you know, it doesn't have well, at least not the best hull, probably, and not the second best hull on it. So basic hull on that Amagi there. So maybe as well a little slower, and definitely not as many hit points. Not really concerned with the enemy ships over there though. We have now capped the A point. So remember, you know, the strategy and what I wanted to keep in mind is not to get caught up in the extreme west side of the map, wanting to come in here, cap the A, and then push on to B. So that's what I'm doing. A is now capped. Those guys, those battleships there, I'm not too concerned about them, because even if they do come back and start capping A, it doesn't matter. We'll still have B and C. So essentially they've taken themselves out of the battle for now. And you know, there's really not a whole lot they can do. They can try and get back here, but the cruisers, the enemy cruisers that are left over here without this battleship support, they're the ones that really pay the price. So putting some final shots into the enemy battleships as they just leave my range, and I'm going behind this mountain. In the meantime, you know, took some incoming shots from the Nagato, but no big deal. In comes the enemy airstrike. So fantastic. I think you all know what great luck I have with these. But luckily it wasn't too bad. While it's going on, you know, I've targeted the planes I wanted to focus on. I'm putting shots into the enemy cruiser off in the distance while keeping aware of the enemy torpedo bombers. Right there they are there. So they're getting ready to line up and drop their torpedoes, and it really sucks, in fact. I just hate the plane so much, but luckily you can see that their aim wasn't that great, because my AA was a little more effective at just rattling them a bit. So I only took one torpedo, able to repair all the damage right away, and now I'm healing. So yeah, not too bad at all. Enemy cruiser gets another full salvo, and just taking a look back at the enemy battleships back there, because apparently they also had a few cruisers in support. So it's the cruisers that are starting to make their presence known, because they're obviously faster, so they're coming around the island there, spotting for the battleships who are, you know, using scout planes to be able to shoot this far at me, but not really actually hitting. So that's not too bad. Enemy battleship in the distance as well, so keeping in mind about those guys, they are within my range, so I'm going to start lining up on them, but I want to pick the target, my target carefully, right? I don't want to waste my whole salvo off on the target that's way in the distance. I've got this enemy battleship right here, the Amagi, coming around that headland, so he's a lot closer, so I put a full salvo into this guy, hoping to do a bunch of damage to him. Nah, it was alright, I guess. Nothing too bad, but anyway, now we've got to maneuver, because as well, don't want to leave a broadside open to the enemies, right? Give them that chance to get some lucky citadels on you. No, always trying to angle your ship here. So that's exactly what I'm doing. It's exactly what the enemy Amagi is doing as well. The trick is, I find in this sort of situation, is to see who's going to flinch first, right? Like who's going to turn and expose the broadside first to try and get all of their guns shot off, and then that gives the opposing enemy ship the chance to shoot off whatever guns they have aimed into the broadside of the enemy ship. So that's what I did to the Magi there. I mean, I didn't actually get a citadel, but I did get some nice shots into the side of him, and he's almost dead now. You can see his health is just melting away, and I do have obviously the support of my allies around me as well. And at this point, I mean, battle is going extremely well. We've got all three caps. The enemy battleships, actually, that I said, you know, if they did come and take A, we wouldn't have to worry about them anyway, because we'd have B and C. Well, they didn't even go and bother to take A. They just sort of ran to the back, right? Ran back to the carrier, I guess, and they're just sort of back there putting shots into us, doing whatever damage they can before battle ends here. But maybe not the best call by them. I would have at least tried to put up some sort of fight. Managed to get a citadel on the Amagi and take that guy out, so that wasn't too bad at all. That was my second kill there for the match, so pretty good, pretty good. Got about half health, and I still have, I think I have one more repair left in the old repair ability, so that's good as well, just in case I need it. It's always good to have. So there's some more enemy battleships. You can see they're just running away, running to the north of the map now. It's only this enemy cruiser over here that's really putting up any sort of fight at this time, because at the very least this guy is trying to get into the ACAP point, right? So you can commend that guy for what he's doing. It's just unfortunate that, you know, we had some allies there who were all over that. And he's gone now, so all we can really shoot at, well, I mean the last few seconds of the battle here, and is the enemy battleships as they arise. There's another enemy that's a little closer, so if I can just wait for him to come around the island, I might be able to get a few shots off at him before the battle ends here. That wouldn't be too bad. Just rack up a few more hits and a few more bits of damage. See what I can do, but also, you know, there's the island there. Gotta maneuver. Don't want to ground myself. That's just embarrassing. And I do it so often now, you'd think it wouldn't be, but now it's always embarrassing every time. So more rounds, final rounds I should say, going into the last enemy battleship. They never actually make it there. We've won. Fantastic. So I mean the team really did this good job here as well, and I earned myself a crap ton of money, so I was really happy overall with the battle. Second overall, which was pretty great, and you can see the team scores there, so you know the team really did a whole lot of made a whole lot of effort there as well. 61,000 damage I think it was, and walked away with well over 200,000 credits, so not too shabby at all. Next battle we're moving into is in the Minikaze. So this again was another battle where I was just, you know, out having a bit of fun, looking to make some money. And I've been on a bit of a destroyer streak here ever since I put up the review on the destroyer for defense. I find myself actually wanting to play my destroyers a lot more, mostly jumping from, you know, in between Kagero and Fubuki, just trying to rock those as hard as I can. Jump down here to the Minikaze just because I know I can do pretty well in the ship and count on making a lot of money as well. So you can see we're on Solomon Islands here, and my general plan is always to go generally to the north is where I like going. This battle, however, though, had a crazy load time for me. You can see when I loaded up here, a lot of my allies were already moving around. So because they're already moving around, and obviously the enemies are already moving around, some enemies started popping up fairly early on, out of position as to where I would normally like them. Mainly here in the center, yes, you can see the two of the enemies there. So yeah, rather than go up to the north there and ignore these guys completely, I decided that I'm actually going to go in here and maybe try and do something about them, see what I can accomplish. So just checking out the ranges involved, and there is one person in range here, or at least I might have a decent shot if I can just line it up and this island would get it out of the way. Or maybe even if he would slow down a little. It's almost in turn now, and you can see as well he can see me, but I'm not going to pop my smoke. I try to be fairly conservative with my smoke, especially if there's land masses around me that I may be able to use as cover. So get off my full salvo there and plow right into an allied cruiser. Sorry, guy. That's not too bad though, because it stopped me immediately and it gives me the chance to make a hard turn to port here and really put myself into the middle, because you can see that the torpedoes I launched off at that enemy didn't actually amount to a whole lot. He turned away onto our tricks, I suppose. So coming in more to the center now and just taking a look around as well at the enemy planes, because I saw them and I just wanted to make sure that they weren't going to get too close to me. I do have my AA guns turned off, but I'm willing to turn them on at these lower tiers. If I'm not stalking an enemy ship, then yeah, I'll shoot some planes down, or at least help my allies shoot some planes down. So it's going to line up on this enemy over here, but you can see that he is quickly dying. In any second now he will actually be dead. There he goes. But there's another enemy, so I think this was a Cleveland. So I start lining up on this guy just because he is within my range. He does spot me though, so I do have to be fairly careful here. And in addition to that, no, it's not a Cleveland, it's a Karlsruhe, man. Oh yeah, it explains why he blew up so quickly. But in addition to that Karlsruhe, I was concerned more with the Fuso in the background, because that guy really, if he gets a lucky shot on me, he might be able to actually detonate me, because I don't actually have a detonation flag on the Minikaze. I figure it's just a waste, so that's why I popped the smoke there. As soon as I pop the smoke, launch my torpedoes, I'm out of there. I'm not going to stick around in the middle. Generally I find it's like a meat grinder in there, so I'll take a few shots if I can, if it's safe enough, and then I'm going to try and get out of there. I don't hang around in the middle. So I start helping allies out in the southern half of the map. Yeah, I know, I never go down here. It's crazy. But I figure it was a place to be because there are 3 enemy ships down here, and you can see that one of my allies just died, and I've got another destroyer, and I think it's another cruiser to the port side of me here as well. So I figure, alright, I'll come down here. They've got a Clemson coming up now, and you can see a Congo in the background. So I was concerned with the Congo, but he was pretty far away, so it wasn't too big of a deal. What I was mainly concerned in this situation, though, was the fact that another enemy destroyer popped up. And the first one that I did see was a Clemson, and I was concerned about the guns on the Clemson, because the Clemson is a great destroyer at tier 4, really, really fun to play as well. And with the gun upgrades, where you start getting the double mounts of your guns all over the ship, it's just an amazing little destroyer. Much like the Isokaze is with its torpedoes, and how amazing it is with getting up there and shooting off torpedoes. The Clemson, I find, is really good at getting in there and just pounding away with guns. So that was probably my biggest concern, and obviously I know he's still here because you can see the smoke, but I can't see him just yet. Well, there he is there, so I do end up throwing all my torpedoes off at the Congo. Now the Clemson is really close, so he's already spotted me. I have to make the decision. I start firing my guns. I'm going to try and gun this guy down while my torpedoes are loading, hoping that he doesn't kill me with all those guns he has. No, it's really, really crazy, I find, when you do end up shooting people down, or shooting at people with your guns on your minikaze. As you know, the guns on this minikaze are pretty crap, just in terms of actual rotation speed. If you can actually get them turned and start firing them, they are actually not too bad at all. You've got 4 of them, pretty great. As you can see, doing some pretty good damage to this Clemson. The problem with them is obviously the rotation speed. As soon as your enemy changes directions, or as soon as you have to start maneuvering them, you can't fire them anymore, and it's completely useless. Fortunately for me, that isn't a problem. You can see I'm putting just some finishing salvos into this Clemson now, just to get this guy gone. And yes, I did manage to kill him. There we go, he is gone, run into the map boundary, but whatever. But that's my first kill, and I was really, really surprised with that kill actually as well, because it was in fact a Clemson. I did not expect to survive that. I figured he would have shot me a whole lot more, but it seemed that guy was a little more concerned with trying to get me with torpedoes than he was with trying to get me with guns. And that's a common mistake that people make, is trying to line up their torpedoes as opposed to their guns. You need to be aware of what is, the primary armament on your ship. On this minikaze, it's my torpedoes. Obviously, the cannons, we just discussed them, slow turret rotation speed, I can't do a whole lot with them. So they're not primary, but on a Clemson, for example, your guns are primary, your torpedoes aren't necessarily the primary armament on a Clemson. The torpedoes are awesome, and I understand that at that low tier, ranges are generally a lot closer in, but when you're fighting off against a destroyer especially, your guns are going to be your primary armament on that Clemson. Anyway, now that he's gone, we can start focusing down on this Congo. As you can see, I do have another ally destroyer with me here as well. It's an Isokaze, and I really wanted this guy to maybe slow down a little and just be aware of my torpedoes, because you can see I'm firing them off here, and I figure that this was a good distance for him not to hit them at all. And I had to think about it a little as well. Because I really didn't want to take the chance of him running into those. Luckily he does see them. You can see he's staking close to the landmass there as my torpedoes go in, and because I'm already seen anyway, I do start firing my guns off at the Congo as well. Figure, what the hell, why not? Maybe set him on fire and make him use his repair before my torpedoes might hit him. So torpedoes are on their way in, and that was a pretty good torpedo strike. Didn't hit him with all of them, but did manage to hit him with 3, I believe. So not too shabby at all. And now the Isokaze down there, he can finish off that Congo. If he was so concerned about having getting the kill for himself, well, that's fine. He can have it. I did my damage. I'm moving on. moving up to the northern part of the map now, because you can see there's an enemy Genvi, I believe. So putting some pressure on our cap, and in fact is capping it. There is an allied, what is that, battleship maybe near our cap, but you know, battleships aren't really that great at taking out destroyers, obviously. So where I'm the destroyer, pretty close in, I'm just going to scoot on over here and start putting shots into the enemy Genvi here, because he is within my range. At the same time, you do always want to be aware of any other enemy ships that might be around. Luckily, I don't have to go in there and take care of the Genvi though, because I do have allies nearby, and they were able to finish him off. So that was fantastic. Our cap is fine. Now that our cap is fine, the north seems to be fairly secure. I'm going to start putting some pressure here on the middle. Help the guys out down in the south as they're trying to work their way up. Maybe, you know, intercept any enemy ships that might be headed south to bolster up that defense, and cause a little havoc here behind their lines potentially as well. So there's an enemy Cleveland. Yes, so there's where the enemy Cleveland came in. I knew that there was an enemy Cleveland somewhere along in this battle. So there he is there, and there is some more enemy ships popping up as well, right? We can see them here. I was pretty surprised actually to see the enemy carrier so close like this. I suppose where else is he going to go, right? With the southern part of the map fallen, and really the north is the safest place for the enemy carrier right now. But yeah, I'm lining up on the enemy Cleveland, but he was kind of tricky because he's in this turn right now, right? And you can see I am more or less in range as well of the enemy carrier. So I have a choice here. You know, am I going to continue to line up in this enemy Cleveland, or am I going to take my chances with the enemy carrier? Keep in mind as well that I'm in this channel, so my you know, my options to turn away and run are fairly limited here in this situation, right? Because I'm not going to be able to completely turn around. I decide to go for the enemy carrier instead. I haven't been seen as of yet, so that's working in my favor. So I launch off all my torpedoes at the enemy carrier. I've been spotted now, and I'm in a hard turn. I'm going to try to get around this island without getting grounded. So I do reduce my speed, and I pop my smoke here as well because I don't want them to see what I'm doing. And you can see as well that I'm no longer being spotted by the enemy Cleveland or the enemy aircraft carrier, so that's great. Enemy aircraft carrier is just plowing right into my torpedoes at this point. So there they go. There's not a whole lot he can do about that. And he's gone. Fantastic. That's my second kill for the game, so not too shabby there at all. Still have the enemy Cleveland over there to deal with, and you'll notice that I do have an allied destroyer now in the A cap, starting to cap that as well, so that's fantastic. So there's the enemy Cleveland. I start shooting my torpedoes off at him, giving it a bit of lead there on the indicator because he is in a turn, and I wanted to make sure that I do hit him. But now I'm sailing away from the whole enemy cap point. You can see that, enemy cap or enemy base, because you can see there is some enemies coming down here from the north, starting to put some pressure on my allies over here. And frankly, I don't have many allies over here on this side, so now I kind of have to switch into a defensive mode here, right? Didn't want to go too far into the enemy cap without making sure that our own cap is protected. So now I'm just going to start lining up torpedoes on these unsuspecting enemies. New prey. Obviously the torpedoes I sent off at the Cleveland did not end up hitting him. He was able to maneuver away from them, but luckily we still do have that allied cap or allied destroyer in the enemy cap. So moving into some smoke now that was laid down by someone, obviously a destroyer, but using it to my advantage, right? So just firing 2 salvos off that enemy cruiser, then taking the 3rd salvo and firing it off the enemy battleship. So what I'm doing here is, right, it's just splitting up the fire, and I'm trying to maximize, because I figure that 6 torpedoes at that enemy Nuremberg over there, I think it's Nuremberg, maybe Königsberg, but 6 torpedoes at that guy is a bit of an overkill. If I send 4 off, that most likely will do the job. Probably still arguably a bit of an overkill. Damn it, it's another Karlsruhe, whatever. But those torpedoes do end up hitting him. I don't know why he was just sitting there, but he was. So fantastic for me. Another first devastating strike for this match, and 3rd kill for me now as well. The torpedoes I sent off at the enemy Fuso, he was able to avoid those. So alright, we need to line up on this guy again because he's a fairly big threat here, especially considering that he's able to shoot at my enemies downrange. I have been spotted now, so the enemy Fuso is fully aware of what I'm doing here. There's the enemy Königsberg, I believe, so I start putting 1 torpedo spread into him as well, again splitting it up. This time not so confident though that I'm actually actually going to hit anything with these torpedoes, because they were shot at haste, right? I'm trying to get out of here right now. All is for naught, though, because we have won the battle. Fantastic. We were able to cap out the enemy base, I believe, so that wasn't too bad at all, and again, did end up with the ultimate goal here of making money. So very happy with that. Third overall in the team here, so not too shabby at all. And you can see as well that the enemy team really didn't put up that much of a defense, and the defense they did put up wasn't fairly effective for the crazy like hit and run, moving to different fronts that I was employing in this battle. Just sort of rocking out, I would say. Anyway, that's today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Take something away from that as well. Leave any comments for me you may have down there in the comment section below. Love reading those and responding back to them. Hit the old like button if you liked today's video, and if you are not a subscriber, please do hit subscribe as well. As always, folks, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.